Good morning, guys. Matt from Blaze Capital here. So today we're going to just talk about margin accounts quickly because we get a lot of questions about that and how they work, etc. So the first little chunk of this is going to be for Canadians because we operate slightly different than the US, and then I'll try and cover the US quickly after and just go over some of that stuff. So what a margin account is you put money in it, and then your brokerage will give you some sort of leverage availability based on the funds. So Questrade, for example, gives you roughly 3 times margin. There's some other brokerages which will offer more. So what I mean by that is, so we have 500,000 in this account on each side. And then, so that equals million. And then our buying power is 3 million. So we have 3 times the available funds in the account in order to buy stuff with. So this doesn't equate to everything. Every different security is going to have a different amount of margin available. So the S&P will let you buy three times as much, and you have to keep 30% of the security. So if you lose the value down to 30%, then you get margin called, and then you have to either come up with the position or close the position, close some other positions, whatever you need to do to get the account back up to 30%. Then we have Organogram here. So it's got a 50% margin rate. So they'll only give you like double rather than triple for the amount in there. So if you try to buy this and you tried to buy $3 million worth, it's not going to work. You'll probably only be able to buy $2 million worth for that one. And then over here we have Body and Mind, which we all love. This one's 100% borrow rate. So this is one where they're not going to give you any leverage for that. And the reason for these is they all have different risk ratios associated with them. So the chance of this either dropping or going up really quickly is a lot higher than the Organogram or the S&P. So the kind of total risk associated with the trade is measured and calculated how much margin they're going to give you. So margin accounts, you have to pay tax on those. So that'll be your tax rate. In the US and Canada are both different, so you'll have to look that up yourself. But you're actually required to pay tax on your gains, and you're able to reduce your losses from your gains and carry them forward, etc. But that's a lot more complicated topic I'm not going to brush on too much. Just know that you're responsible for paying the tax on any gains that you make in your account. So Questrade's really nice. With Questrade, they treat everything in the same account, which sounds really like common sense, but I have a TD margin account, and with TD you have 4 separate accounts. So you have a Canada account, a Canada short account, a US account, and a US short account. So it's just a giant pain in the butt to toggle back and forth between your orders, and I really don't like it that much, to be honest with you. Whereas Questrade, you just go in and you can buy or you can sell or you can do whatever you want, and it just shows up in the same account. It's just way easier to keep track of. So that's one benefit of using Questrade. And so we'll just go through a couple orders here. So if we do 10,000 of the S&P, so we clearly don't have enough money to buy that, right? Like we only have roughly $1 million. But since it's margined here, it's going to let me put in an order for just under 3 million, send the order, boom, and then we can just keep track of it here. So what happens is you get a bracket in this. This means you're at a negative balance here. So you need to settle that at some point. So if you aren't swapping your funds back and forth, you'll have to exchange cash or do whatever you need to do to get this back to normal. Otherwise, this brings to the next topic. You actually pay interest on any money that you leave. This is only overnight. So if you're borrowing the margin and you pay it back by the end of the day, you're not going to have to pay interest on it. But if you hold it overnight, you get charged whatever interest rate your brokerage says. It's usually not too terrible because it's calculated on an annual basis, but that's just like if you're if you're holding stocks overnight that you don't have the money for, and then you're just exposing yourself to more risk. So that's our next topic, which is like why you would use margin, why you wouldn't use margin. So Justin had a pretty good analogy where it's kind of like riding a bike with no hands. So with if you're just trading normal, and so it's kind of like trading with training wheels with no hands. So the amount of total damage you're going to do to yourself isn't as bad because you can just kind of coast until you stop. Whereas if you're trading on margin and a trade's going against you, you're going to, you either have to speed up, add more funds, do something overly risky, or you can just cut your losses and take a pretty big beating. So if you're trading something and you're getting, like you're at a 1% loss, if you're on margin, you're going to be at a 3 or 4% loss because you have to pay the money back that you borrowed from the bank. So we generally don't recommend anybody trading margin unless you're if you have a pretty good hit ratio and a good success rate. So if you're able to make 1% on every trade and minimize your losses, like have roughly, maybe 70% hit ratio, then maybe margin would be something that you should consider. But if you're just learning how to do trading, then it's probably not the greatest idea to just jump right into margin. Sure, you can make more money, but you can also lose a lot more money. So you definitely want to hone your skills before you kind of get into the whole margin trading. What else we got to talk about here? So in the US, you guys have a pattern day trading rule. So it's pretty complicated. I'm not an expert here. I did a little bit of research to help try and explain it. So if you have under $25,000 in your account and you do more than, I think it's if you trade more than 4 out of 5 days in a period and you day trade those. So what that means is you buy the stock in the morning, sell it in the afternoon, etc. So you buy and sell the position in the same day with more than, I think it's 6% of your total account. Then you get flagged for day trading. So if you don't have more than 25,000 in your account, then you get locked out to just doing cash trades, which means you have to wait for them to settle until the call is met. So what that means is you have to get over 25,000 in your account in order to do that. The ways around this, I believe, don't quote me on this, is you can have 2 separate margin accounts because I don't believe the brokers talk to each other. Or you can use a cash account, have another cash account where you can still day trade in, but then you have to wait for the trades to settle before you're able to use those funds. So you just got to be really careful in that sense as well. So I'd strongly advise learning more about those rules if you plan on doing any day trading, just because you don't want to get in trouble with any of that stuff. It's not worth it. Okay, well, thanks guys. Shoot me a message if you have any questions. I know I didn't go over too much, but it was just kind of the gist of how to use a margin account, when you should be using a margin account, when you shouldn't be using a margin account. And yeah, all right, thanks guys. Have a good Sunday.